Kevin didn't discover residential schools are a horrible crime.
Oh no.
And they're a terrible thing, and they happened, and they're real, and I have no question about that. They're the most terrible chapter in Canadian history.
Yeah.
One of them. Kevin didn't discover residential schools.
No.
Kevin capitalizes off of residential schools.
I wouldn't say that. I would say when somebody loses their job, right, based upon trying to fight for something that they believe is good, and their life changes and they continue to stick with that, it would have been easier for him to go.
No, it wouldn't, because he's a megalomaniac and he's getting fame from this.
Are you kidding me? Do you know how hard it is to be targeted? You think he wouldn't have walked away from the pain and suffering that he's experienced every single day? No. And even just
I don't think it.
You don't want to know these things that are going on in the world.
I do.
You want to experience and internalize pain?
I don't.
As these people have?
Internalized pain is understand the truth of what's happening.
No,
that's narcissistic. Like, you feel no empathy.
It is very narcissistic.
The question that you asked was a fine, valid question, but then to follow it up with an assumption or an attack, which I think we could both say that you did that. You know, I'm not.
Do you know who Jan Longboat is?
You know what, guys? I think we're actually ready to start what we're here for today.
Yeah, you know,
let's draw our attention over
yeah,
here.
man.
Okay?
We don't have to agree on everything, but your questions are valid.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I have no problem taking them. I don't think anybody does. But divide and conquer is a tactic that we all have to do everything in our power not to allow it to.
I can talk loud, trust me. I was air cadet for 5 years.
Okay. I was too.
CFP Trenton ever?
No.
Comax? We just came from 180 Queen Street West, which is the Toronto Federal Court office, filing office. And we were expecting to file motion material for an ex parte motion, which is scheduled to be heard on Monday, the 9th, the 9th of July. And what happened actually was very interesting today because it went better than as expected, if you can imagine. What happened was we were actually able to get the material already today to the court. So the court actually had a look at our material already, and the court has elected that we should proceed. They've actually directed us on how they'd like us to proceed in this matter. The court's unsure whether or not the Federal Court of Canada can deal with matters of a criminal nature. It's interesting because we know that the Federal Court of Canada does in fact deal with matters of a criminal nature. They do it usually, the only times that I've ever been able to find out about it are times when pharmaceutical corporations are charged, excuse me, for conspiracy of all things.
Hey folks, I gotta ask you to stop filming, I apologize. Okay, you're on private property, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought we could film.
No, no.
No, he's in charge. Do you mind if we go out front?
Okay.
Where do you do it?
No, just within the gate.
Just outside the gate?
Just outside the gate would be fine.
Can I stand inside and they stand outside?
Of course, right?
Well,
and you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, I've set up people with tents living behind this place, so we got away with it. We don't have to leave here.
That's okay then. Thank you. You're okay? I'll stay and they'll go behind.
That works for everybody else here, yeah?
That'd be great, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. Sorry, I didn't know about that. We did them here before.
No, it's okay.
Is it new?
No, it's a matter of
discretion.
Sorry, not discretion. Oh, I apologize. If we see you, then we come out. In that instance, more than likely, we just didn't see you in time.
Oh no,
but there's cameras
Court
everywhere.
Of Appeal in the Murdoch case, we were here. They were all smoking pot. The cameras were rolling. It was a huge circus. That was okay.
Well, today he
different
saw,
media,
so
different media guidelines.
What?
It is okay, actually.
If I knew, then I would probably even make different rules and legislation. No, you're asking a reasonable question. You're asking a reasonable. Not necessarily. There's certain forms of media that they're.
Did anyone tell you?
Certain forms of media?
Yeah.
Someone told you to?
Oh yeah.
Wait.
Okay, thanks.
What's the difference between certain forms of media?
He's just following orders.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Cheers.
I actually,
only.
I am a certain form of media. I work with Al Jazeera. Is that okay?
It's like Greg's finally revealed his job. He's working for the government of Qatar.
No, I've actually just done some freelancing for them. They're using my research.
Be here at Osgoode Hall to stop the press conference. It's ironic, not ironic, it's actually interesting and noteworthy that when I was here last year for the Murnau Court of Appeal matter, our crew was actually on those steps doing our press conference with bongs ablazing and marijuana smoke filling the cannabis smoke, filling the area. Security guards watched, certainly, and were keeping the peace, but no one was told to move along. Today that's not the case, and the orders came from above, so we respected the orders, and we're filming now on the outside of the private property.
How do you know the orders came from above?
I asked him whether or not he was ordered to tell us. I was trying to ask him whether he would order us at his discretion, and he balked at that, and then I asked him straight out, did somebody tell you that we needed to move along? And he said, quote, "Oh yeah," end quote. So to me that's almost like a fuck yeah, pardon my language. The court has already looked at our material and already given us directions on how to proceed. So the motion stands for Monday, July 9th, which is the good news. We will be here again, and we are going to be filing actually some additional material now over the next day or two, depending on how long it's going to take us to prepare it. That's to satisfy the court. They've made us aware of a rule, for example, that they're going to like to have a letter from us, although we didn't see, you know, that in the rule that we were shown. I'm just going to take the court's word at that we're going to add that letter to our motion record and do things as the court has asked us to do, which is what we originally were going to do on next Monday, except now we're doing it even sooner. So I'm very pleased and happy with this. The powers that be seem to be very confused with respect to what we're doing and what their policy is and how to either stop what we're doing, it feels like, or compel us to do different things. But as you can see, we're going to do what we're doing no matter what the powers that be say, and we'll respect the law. And in fact, we're going to use the law to shut down this cabal that has one set of rules for some people and an absolutely different set of rules for other people. And I think this speaks to the very reason that we all find ourselves here today in the first place. So I've already explained a little bit previously about what our case here is about.
The approach you're taking in this case is to challenge Admiralty law and its agents on their own turf with their own rules. Is this correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right, and we are going to be naming these people. These organizations that we're dealing with are some of the most devious and sneaky, underhanded, and just murky characters that I've ever dealt with in my entire life. And you would think that I'm talking about some sort of dark mafioso, but it's even worse. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say that it even borders on the realm of what some people would consider demonic. The MO, the modus that these people operate under, the habitual, you can almost predict behavior from some of these cartels. The conspiracy is rampant. This is not a conspiracy theory. These are federal court cases, criminal federal court cases where you have Bayer, all kinds of pharmaceutical corporations conspiring with their multinational partners, funneling money back and forth to and fro, and they don't happen, you know, once in a blue moon where it's sort of a rotten egg. This is like the entire dozen of this rotten egg bunch is rotten. And we're going to name them and we're going to hold them to account. And I don't care what their title is. I don't care if it's the Queen of Sheba, the King of Farouk, or Her Majesty the Queen of England. If they're breaking the law and they're conspiring with other people to cover up other people who have broken the law, and there are sick people dying, then we have come here to stop it.
Can you explain your translation of the word ex parte?
Ex parte, yes. It's a Latin term, and what it means essentially is that it's being done by one party. And so it excludes other parties from a proceeding. It's, you know, I say it's not nice. That's in layman's terms. It's not a normal way that you want to proceed, and you only do it in what I call exceptional circumstances. And I'll give you an example of why we decided to proceed ex parte, and it's because, excuse me, we are in the Queen's courts. I don't even know if Her Majesty has actual knowledge of what has been going on in her name. And I give every accused the benefit of the doubt until the trial of their peers, finds them guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So the presumption of innocence is one of the pillars of our system of law, which is why we've come to this court of law to seek justice.
This is the provincial court, right?
This is Osgoode Hall that I'm motioning to, which is where the Ontario Court of Appeal is located, and beyond Osgoode Hall is 180 Queen Street West, where we just were, which is the federal court.
In your press release, you say that ex parte means that the other party doesn't get to see the documents, and what your explanation of ex parte now means that you can choose to proceed without having the other party there. That is a complete misinterpretation of the phrase in ex parte.
The other party doesn't get to see your documents.
No, that's not what it means. The only court where the other party doesn't get to see your documents is a kangaroo court.
I see.
All courts, both parties get to see all documents.
Well,
ex parte is used in cases when the person who you want to get some information in court on or do a court case on is not available. You can't say we cannot withhold information from the accused. It's a fundamental pillar of our democracy and of our court system.
I'm sorry that you think so. I've been to Harvard and I don't need to take legal advice, no offense.
So you have a legal degree?
I have great legal advice.
You've been to Harvard? I've been to Harvard. I've also been to 5 other universities.
Brilliant.
Did you attend?
Good for you. I did attend, that's correct.
Law?
Honors, if you can imagine.
Law? Next question. You cannot sue the Queen. Under Canadian law, you cannot take the Queen to court. So how do you explain how you're going to take the Queen to court?
Watch me.
It's impossible.
There might be a possible argument in that. Last May of 2011, in the case of Regina versus John Anthony Hill in the UK, the defendant successfully argued the case that the Queen's legitimacy is actually invalid. On 2 cases. One, he alleges that the Queen's coronation was falsified, and that information is apparently listed in the sources, which I don't have at the top of my head. The second, and perhaps the most important one, is the fact that the Queen put her hand upon a Bible that dictated man-made law as being forbidden, and she swore a solemn oath to uphold the laws of God. So in the space of putting her hand upon that Bible, swearing to uphold the laws of God when man-made law is strictly forbidden, and then proceeding to give royal assent to a piece of man-made legislation, he argued that she had invalidated her oath. If that testimony or if that evidence is truly in fact correct, and it appears to be, up to this moment of now for me, that could open the door for a legitimate ground to declare the Queen's mandate illegitimate within a Canadian jurisdiction and allow us to proceed forward.
I just want to say, A, I don't plan to use any of that, first of all, and B, I don't know about that, but I've certainly heard about it. As a matter of fact, there's a federal law, which is one of those federal laws I mentioned earlier that we're going to be referring to, and it's actually called the Proceeding Against the Crown Act. Do you know what that act is about?
Tell me.
Sorry?
Tell me.
Do you know about it?
I'm not doing the press conference.
Most people in my world have dealt with proceedings against the Crown because victims of, for example, cannabis victims, cannabis medical victims who have been persecuted, have found that usually the Queen is behind, or people acting in right of Her Majesty, which is the same diff. You still have to sue Her Majesty even when you're suing her servants, believe it or not. And you need to follow the Proceedings Against the Crown Act when you're doing that, which is exactly what we've done.
Whether it's Haute de la Grande, whether it's residential schools, whether it's children in Canada, the UK, all around the world. State and religious institutions that run these places are hurting these kids. They're molesting these kids, and it has to stop. How would you proceed? Because I'm open to anybody's.
As am I.
Honestly, and without bullshit.
You know, that's what I think it's.
This is the key problem.
How would you proceed?
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not here to ask that question. I'm here to ask the questions and answer them.
Disrupt my press.
No, I came here to ask you what you wrote on your press release.
I'm not speaking to you anymore. If you don't want to answer, it's quid pro quo, my friend.
I just think that anybody who has any positive
I did, as a matter of fact.
ideas,
You know what it means?
I wanted to hear.
I'll tell you for free. Advice is only worth the price you pay for it, by the way, but I'll give you free advice anyway. Quid pro quo means I do for you, and then you give me a reach around. You do for me. You ask me a question.
Referendum
if you ask me stupid questions, and
you've been
telling me that you
answers,
can't sue the Queen
You can't.
is not a question, and that's kind of stupid. No offense.
You can't.
Are there any other questions?
Well, you have a bit of a point there. Everyone who's tried so far has failed, but I just thought you might have you know, that's all.
I thought so too.
That's,
Can I say one more thing? If I am passionate about this issue and about things not being true, it's because I want to win.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's why I asked, bro. That's all. I wasn't meaning to.
Go ahead. Thank you.
2012, the year 2012, has been foretold by many indigenous cultures, every major religion, and now by modern scientists who are saying that the shift that's happening on our planet now is going to greatly alter the evolution of our species. So my question to you is, do you perceive that this lawsuit that you're bringing forward, this class action lawsuit, which I perceive impacts the life of every world citizen on this planet, do you believe that this lawsuit is the mechanism, the event of the millennium that is inviting every world citizen on this planet to say, it's not about us versus them anymore, because we're all one. It's not you, me, them, the bad guys. We voted them in. We turn a blind eye. We know that there's injustice on the planet, and nobody speaks up because we're afraid. And I want to say to you that courage is the defining moment in the life of every human. And when the truth is spoken, a sound is heard.
The bell shall toll.
And here's the other thing. Dr. David Hawkins, who wrote a book called Power versus Force, lay down your judgments, lay down your anger, lay down your hate, lay down our mistaken beliefs.
Somebody 2,000 years ago said that too. His name was Jesus Christ.
Well, thank you.
You know what I mean, though?
Well, the thing is, yes, I do. But you know what? I believe that this lawsuit is a divine last call to our race. Because if you see the prophecies that are predicted in the future, what's coming towards us, they're very ugly, but they don't have to be. So I believe that every person who says yes to support the end of the dark matrix, not about putting, I mean, they'll be held accountable. Obviously, they had a choice. They didn't have to do what they did. The bottom line is, for me, is that each and every one of us now have a choice to make, and this is not a dress rehearsal, and not one person will be left untouched. Our soul is here to release. This lifetime, our soul is going through this world shift in full consciousness. We know what's happening.
What is so key with what you're just describing is that it's not a time of darkness. It depends on who you're listening to. Who I'm listening to now are our First Nations people who have followed their own trail of tears. And this trail of tears is, I just get goosebumps when I even say it. I'm afraid to even learn about it, but what I've heard and what I know so far about it, and what Reverend Kevin Annette, our brother who has really helped all of this come together, and who we're supposed to be calling at any minute now, just to let him know what our progress is. Maybe you're watching online on stream, Kevin. Hello if you are. But he's been busy with interviews. This is going worldwide. Delusions of grandiose or not, this is an international cabal that is a series of cabals that's being taken out by this lawsuit if we're successful. And you know when we'll be successful? We'll be successful when the Rainbow Warriors assemble and return. It's not an outrage. What you're describing is not an outrageous fantasy land that you can only see in a movie. This is what the world was like for thousands of years before Europeans came here in the first place. For crying out loud, they lived here peacefully, in harmony, with nature. We want to trace where this has come from and get rid of it, because it has done nothing but harm and brought hell to all of us humanity.
We know where it came from. Some people say it's the Freemasons, some people say it's the Vatican, some people say it's the Jew or it's the Black. It's all of that. Like you said earlier, demonic, and I believe that with all my heart. One thing we have to worry about the word evolve and evolving, because that's what they're trying to do. That's what they've been trying to do. They think that we're all, and you know, that's the problem with evolution, is somebody always has to die. So spiritually, and that's what you're talking about, right? That's where it's at, is because they put their differences aside, and they meet at G20 and they meet at Bilderberg, and they put their differences aside to put their plan forward, and we can't do that. That's why we'll lose, man.
If we're constantly fighting over who we don't like and who dissed somebody else at the last meeting, and why we don't like this person, and what's wrong with that, and what's wrong with this, and what's wrong with that, and why is that, and who is that, And then we have all this fear and confusion, and we don't talk about the point.
Yeah.
And the point is the solution and where we're going. And what's happening is exactly what was just described. It's called an exodus. Bob Marley sung about it. There's been many books written about it, and it's a movement of job people. And we're not moving anywhere. Our ancestors have moved from place to place, escaping essentially the same demons.
Exactly.
Okay, and we're tired of moving. I'm not moving, and I'm not going to burn myself on fire here at Osgoode Hall like Mohammed did to start an Arab Spring in Canada. Follow us on Twitter, watch the YouTube, tell your friends about it, ask questions, and be helpful. Just today, the people at the federal court, unbelievably, outstandingly friendly, even when I called in Ottawa to get the court date to begin with. A judge taking the matter quickly, right away. I thought we'd come and do the press conference and you know, I'd go back later and maybe have an answer or maybe have to come back tomorrow. Not at all. Here's copies of everything you need, sir. Here's this, here's that, here's that. Shaking of the hand, first and last name from the public servant, exactly the way it should be.
You said on your press release that you have a court date on the 9th.
Yes.
You're not in the court docket.
Ex parte motions don't go on the court docket. And you won't find us on the court docket for Monday.
You're kidding me, right?
But we'll see you Monday.
So we've established that the lawsuit is huge and that it has the potential to expose significant crimes within several institutions of leadership. However, it's not the only lawsuit that's taking place right now. A lawsuit filed by Neil Keenan, representing the Dragon family citizens of foreign states. This suit also names high-level defendants, including Daniel Del Bosco, the Office of International Treasury and Control, Ray Dam and David Sale of the OITC, the UN, the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, the Italian Republic, the Italian Financial Police, the former Italian PM Berlusconi, the World Economic Forum and its US incorporative part, as well as its head Giancarlo Bruno. Is there a connection between these two cases?
Thank you for that excellent, very, very excellent question. And also, Jeff, I just want to thank you also for sending me that 111-page case, which I'm going to confess I haven't read every page of the filing yet. We have more questions than we have statements of fact at this very early stage in this. This is not a normal lawsuit, everybody, okay? This is also a criminal prosecution. We're in uncharted territory. The Nuremberg trials, who dealt with some of this cabal, Bayer, for example, IG Farben, as you pronounce it outside of Harvard. IG Farben is a company that it basically ran the pharmaceutical.
They made methadone.
Well, yes, they did make methadone, actually. Yeah, they're a spin-off of them did. Bayer invented aspirin as well, which is very nice. That Bayer invented heroin and used it as a cough syrup for children, which was lovely, and doctors liked it too. Go figure. And then they realized that all the doctors were zombies and all the kids were messed up and no one could get off this cough medicine. And so a little while later they made it illegal, and that's where heroin came from. Bayer, thank you. So then their friends made up methadone, which we used to treat. By the way, the Canadian Pharmacists Association, who is one of the parties that we're dealing with, they claim that methadone is perfectly healthy, even if taken over long periods of time.
If you can answer, how do you plan on financing this court action, keeping in mind that the pharmaceutical companies basically have bottomless pits and can hire armies of lawyers, whereas not being privy to your situation, how do you think you can fare against possibly a smaller person, and smaller being not as big as the pharmaceutical companies?
I'm a broke ass and they have deep pockets.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for the question, because it seems daunting, doesn't it? Going to court is traditionally a very expensive thing for people, as most of our survivors know, especially ones that I've been dealing with who have hired lawyers, who have been relieved of their life savings and end up still being, you're innocent until proven broke is a saying that some people, in circles that I used to hang out in, used to laugh about over cocktails, which actually secretly and inside made me always really hurt. That lawyers who did that for a living would laugh at such a thing, and it made me realize why I didn't, end up wanting to be called to their bar. I'm terms of what I'm going to be out of pocket on behalf of these victims to file the application and to get the motion dealt with on Monday, I'll tell you exactly how much it is, because I actually don't have enough to pay for it today. But that's okay. They're going to take the money when I come back to send the rest of the papers in. But it's $50, 50. Is the current acting papal nuncio in Ottawa, and we know who their lawyers are, and so we'll be able to serve the Pope and the Vatican, hopefully via that way, so that won't be too expensive. That can be done by email or fax. So you're talking about a couple $1,000, probably start to end. And these are the rules of the Federal Court of Canada. And so it's pursuant to these rules that we're gonna try to get justice. And I had to memorize 4 of them today because I didn't have a copy of this. You can imagine on my budget what that would be like to print out. And if you can imagine, the Queen was gracious enough to have one of her servants give us a copy today. And so we thank Her Majesty for that graciousness, actually. And, you know, in my world, you take small gifts whenever and wherever they're found. And, you know, today's been bountiful, and so for that we're thankful, actually. I looked at it, I looked at the numbers involved. This lawsuit is for in excess of $1 trillion, and I don't know how many zeros that is, dollars, US. How many? 12, thank you. The defendant, one of the defendants, it goes by the name of Del Bosco. This is an individual, rather murky sounding individual, who, according to these plaintiffs, has multiple residents, including in Devon-les-Bains, France. France is where the Del Bosco Salation Order, by the way, was founded. The Del Bosco Salation Order. He also appears to have a residence in London. The Office of International Treasury Control acted in concert with this Del Bosco character, according to this pleading. And upon information and belief, OITC has its principal offices in Singapore and Cambodia. Although according to a document OITC produced in March 2006, it has offices in Malaysia, the Netherlands, the United States, Australia, and Ecuador. OITC identifies itself as a sovereign entity in its own right, as instituted by the United Nations of the world, and as provided for under the Treaty of Paris of 1886. It claims to have substantial assets in its control. The OITC spokesman have claimed the organization has been chartered by the UN under a secret protocol. And if any of our listeners or viewers happen to know of any Jester Shriners that they can help identify, we have a list going up, and we want to find out which judges are formerly part of this group. I pray that there aren't any longer. I'm not a media whore, I'm not trying to be public about this, but unfortunately I have to be. I would rather do this secretly and keep the victims' names out of this. It's why Kevin and I have only our names on this, okay? And the only reason that we only put our names on this and no one else's is because I was afraid of what would happen today might happen, which is that we're gonna have to list every single defendant, every single one, and it's going to get served to the Queen and to Rob Nicholson and to their Her Majesty's inner sanctum here in Canada, okay? Irregardless of whether we're going ex parte or not. The attempt to discredit, to defame, to ridicule, to slander, my reputation and Kevin's reputation is in full online effect. Make no mistake about it. Sorry?
Are you connected with the International Socialists?
No, I don't even know who they are.
Kevin is.
Sorry?
Kevin is. Kevin has a long history with the International Socialists. It's a Marxist organization that supports Agenda 21.
No clue. So, but what we are doing is trying to get rid of the disinformation and the lies, and we're trying to just stick to what's happening, which is the truth.